and welcome to this webinar call. What I would like to do is remind everyone, if you haven't already done so, to turn your audio on, dial into audio, to make sure you see and hear everything. So welcome to this webinar brought to you by AMEC. We have people on the call from 12 countries, including as far away as India, as far away as Indonesia, as early in the morning as East Coast USA. Some people on the call have entered the AMEC Awards previously. Others of you have not, and we're excited about having all of you on the call, especially what will be important will be to ask you please to mute, otherwise we're going to get too much sound in this. So, you see on the screen, today is all. I'm delighted that we have two great presenters to share their experience with you. Philip Lynch, someone who knows about award success, with Kantar having achieved 5 golds in the AMEC Awards this year. And welcome and a good morning to New York, to David Rockland from Ketchum. David's an AMEC director. He's chair of our North American chapter and will be, for the second year, chair of our International Awards panel. So let's get underway. One piece of housekeeping for me. You can tap in questions as we go along on your WebEx screen, or you can wait and ask your question verbally at the end. I'll take a Q&A session at the end, both on screen and verbally. So, Philip, I'm going to hand over to you.
Okay, thanks, Barry. So, hi everybody, my name is Philip Lynch. I'm Director of Media Evaluation at Kantar Media. I'm based in London, but my response also take me to Europe and to the US. I'm just going to spend 10 minutes really giving you my own perspective on what it takes to put together a compelling AMEC Awards entry. So there we are, back in Dublin, having the times of our lives with all our awards. Winning awards makes people happy. Based on talking to various people in various states in the hotel later that night. But I think the point is that you shouldn't underestimate what the awards can contribute internally. I think people think first and foremost about what it will do for your business externally, but taking an objective look at the work you do and what you achieve is good practice for any business, and I think winning the recognition of your peers is also very nourishing, and the well-being of your staff. Thinking about how one should approach the awards, and I think the first thing to emphasise is that the awards require commitment. So if you plan to enter, do so wholeheartedly. Both feet in, please, because that will give you the best chance of success. I think one thing we could all do is treat the awards as we would a client. So we have the same attention to detail and the same attention to deadline. As I said, the benefit, there is an immediate benefit for all of us in that it gives us an opportunity to step back and really objectively assess the work we do. This can have immediate benefits in helping you identify what your strengths are and how you can improve your offer to clients. You then also have the supplementary benefit of being in the running to win a senior award at the AMEC Awards night. Planning. It's critical really that you start as early in the cycle as possible. We should all be mindful that January is an especially busy time in the evaluation sector with monthly, quarterly and annual that you do as much of the work beforehand as possible. Aim to complete your submissions in December, when hopefully things are a little quieter. I think you can spread the responsibility. There is a temptation to put someone senior in charge, but I think the AMEC Awards are a great opportunity for account managers to get involved. You can rely on their enthusiasm, that they will rise to the challenge, of producing very polished entries. Get early approval from your clients. Even within Kantar, we've come up with what we regard as very promising entries, only to be told by the client that they're, reluctant to go public with the work that we've undertaken for them. So don't, waste or squander time on entries where the client is not going to be coming with their support, because, as I'll discuss later, client support is another critical factor in success. You have to be objective. Only the people, when they give their time to judge the award, paper to wade through. So you really have to think, what makes my project stand out? And I would say at this point, there is a level of professionalism, a level of excellence that we all expect our teams to operate at. Every entry received by AMEC will be at that level, minimum. So you have to think about what extra, what added value, what creativity is in your entry that is going to make it really stand out. To that end, have an internal panel. Prejudge your entries. If you can, seek some independent external opinion. It may be that an experienced comms practitioner outside of your business, they might even be a client at an agency, who maybe can spend a couple of hours just hearing the arguments for a particular entry and can maybe give you some constructive, impartial advice on what the relative merits are of your candidate entries. Thinking about what makes a compelling entry, do ask yourself, why does this project exist? What's its point? What would the client's life be like if this project didn't exist? So really what we're thinking about is, what did it actually deliver to the client in terms of an outcome? I think the judges favour progressive analysis. That's how I define analysis that helps our clients to move forward, helps them to do the job better. Things that deliver tangible, measurable benefits. And that's over the passive audits of media output. So if you have a project that simply audits historic performance on a monthly or quarterly basis, no matter how ambitious it is in scale, I don't really think it's going to cut it in the final analysis. There needs to be a demonstration that your work has helped our clients to do their job better. To that point, ensure the objectives are clearly stated. The judges are business people themselves. If they see an interesting business case with an interesting set of objectives, they're more likely to read it and engage with it. Do ensure that the analysis outcomes are tied directly to the objectives. There needs to be, an end-to-end story that shows consistently that there was an interesting objective, that you approached it in a constructive, creative way and delivered some real excellent outcome for the client. So do highlight innovation and prove the impact of the project in terms of how it helped your client. There is a copy of this year's Platinum winner. There's a link there too, so it will give you a good indication of the standard required. Just not Kantar's entries are in there, entries from all the shortlisted companies from 2012 are in there, and it's well worth having a read through and seeing how the entries have been constructed to highlight the strengths of the projects. Some housekeeping points. We all do a lot of report writing. We've all got good copywriters. Make sure your best copywriters are engaged on your entries. When writing, make every statement relevant to the entry criteria. You should treat this really as a sales pitch to the judging panel, but you can't be salesy. You have to be very matter of fact. You have to make every claim stand up and support it with hard evidence. Otherwise, it will just come across as, as waffle, basically. So write clearly and substantiate every claim you make. Do ensure you pick the right category for entry. Even the best can get caught out by that. I should know. I think about 3 years ago, we found ourselves with what we thought was a very strong entry sitting in the wrong category. Produce supporting material that is compelling, concise and clear. Again, the judging panels are they're very time poor. They're going to look for something that immediately grabs their attention. You don't need to include 6 slides from the project if 2 or 3 really compelling slides will do the job and help substantiate the value of the project. Do ensure you have a supporting quote from the client. I can't emphasize enough the amount of weight that judges will give to a client who is on board and endorsing your project. It is probably one of the most important things you can do, one of the most important elements of any successful AMEC award that I've seen for a number of years now has always been supported with very strong client endorsement. Regularly, you audit them, you challenge them, you make sure they are as good as they can be. Just because it might look good on paper, really do think, is this really communicating, articulating the strengths and the benefits of this campaign? Try and make the language work. Don't be flowery, don't over-embellish, keep to the facts, keep to the point. As I said, the judges need immediacy for your entry to work in their eyes. Lastly, enter early. It's something I said at the start. Don't leave it to the last minute. We will all be very busy in January, so try and get your entries in process well ahead of the early bird deadline. That's me. I think I took just about 10 minutes to get through that, so that should keep us on schedule so we can have some questions later. Now going to introduce a man I last met in Dublin. He gave me a Platinum Award, in fact, so I have very fond memories of my last meeting with David Rockland, a senior partner with Ketchum, who's now going to give you a judge's perspective on the AMEC Awards. Over to you, David.
All right. Hey, Philip, thank you. And thank you for all of you who have joined this morning. It's great, speaking on behalf of the Board of Directors of AMEC, to see so much enthusiasm for the awards program. We have people on, I think, from at least a dozen different countries this morning or this afternoon or evening. I'm seeing India, North America. So thank you all for your interest and your engagement on behalf of the Board of Directors. I want to give you a little advice about how to win. And in terms of how to win, you really have to start off by understanding how your entry is going to be scored. If you know, I would almost have this kind of score sheet right in front of you as you begin to work on an entry. Clearly, there are 100 points. Anybody who does not get over 60 points doesn't qualify to then go on for consideration for a bronze, silver, or gold. It's interesting. I've been a judge, for example, for the PRSA Silver Anvil Awards. Theirs is a 40-point program. 10 of the points of the 40 are given for research up front. 10 is given for evaluation on the back end. If you're a judge and you are time constrained, which all of us are, the first thing you do is to look for making sure those parts are complete, because you know that no one is going to win a silver anvil unless they get at least 35 or more points. So the first thing you do is you look at, is there a research section, and is there an evaluation section? And if there isn't, you don't even read the rest of the award. So the point being here, when it comes to these 100 points, is unless you have all these sections and done a pretty good job on them, it will be very hard to become a bronze or a silver or a gold winner. And what we do is, as the judging takes place, We then qualify each entry into these different buckets of bronze, silver, gold, or not going on for consideration. And then my job really as the chair of the judge, I personally don't do much judging myself as much as decide if we have close ties within each category, how to best look at the awards and how to sort of allocate the bronze and the silver and the gold. But sort of key point number one I want you to understand is there are 100 points. You have to have pretty much each of these sections well done to really qualify to move forward. And skipping a section is pretty much a very good way to ensure that you won't be qualifying to move into the silver, bronze, or gold. In terms of what a winning entry looks like, in a way, these 4 bullet points are a paraphrasing of the Barcelona Principles. The Barcelona Principles basically start off by saying, as Philip pointed out, be very clear about your goals and objectives. And then based on that, how did you achieve that in terms of outputs or media results, in terms of target audience or outcome effects, in terms of how this related to the client or organization's business. And then, as I think everybody knows from Barcelona, AVEs are a very much a defunct or inappropriate measure of communications performance. And so by putting AVEs in as a measure of success, it's a pretty good way to score less. And I would really discourage it. But basically, if one looks at the 7 Barcelona Principles, in essence, they're carried out through this awards program. And the judges aren't necessarily looking against those 7 principles, but in terms of the real concepts behind what creates a winning entry, those principles embody what that is. So let me show you 3 examples in terms of that playing out. This is an example from Socialize. They won the Grand Prix, or the International Award, top award, this past year in Dublin. And why did they win? They won because they stated their goals, customer response time of 20 minutes, and then linked that to an output result of 20 minutes. Well, the result was 19. Or the positive sentiment in terms of the brand within social media. They indicate a numerical score, and they indicate what that numerical score or how it was achieved against that objective. One of the things you notice about these particular goals and metrics is that they are, in fact, goals and metrics. In other words, they have numbers in them. A lot of times I think we're tempted to write goals in these sort of broad ways that don't define a specific how much metric of success or what would success look like. Winning entries do that. In other words, they define we were trying to achieve this amount, and whether or not we achieved it or not is not really the question. This is a measurement awards program, so what we're really doing is looking, okay, did we measure against the metric or the numeric goal that we set out? So this is a good example of a winner in terms of what's called output, in terms of media, this being social media. This next example is the case where you're looking at the target audience, and you have set a goal against a target audience. In this case, it's dairy farmers in Australia. And the gold winner here is basically then measuring against their reach to that target audience, against dairy farmers in Australia. The company here, part of the Sentia Media Group, called 360, they won the gold. They scored very highly on this. If I recall correctly, I think their score was well into the 80s. And that was based on the fact that, again, they identified a target audience and they then measured against reach to that target audience. This next one, which was only a bronze winner, but it's a good example of really 2 things. One, this is my entry. So even if you get to be chair of the judges, you don't automatically win the top award. In fact, I think the judges were kind of biased against me because I was the chair of the judges. But nonetheless, we got a bronze. And what we did here, and I wanted to show this one in particular to you because it's the idea of linking the measurement to the client's organizational objective. So the client here is Philips, and Philips is seeking and has been seeking to measure itself as a health and well-being company, its reputation as a health and well-being company on a global basis. That's their organizational or business objective. That reputation enhances their business performance. And so then what we then document in the performance against that is the KPIs or the key performance indicators that link back to that organizational objective. And so the main point here in terms of the three examples I've showed you is that a winning program is going to have a clear objective, as Philip pointed out, but then it's going to show measurement against that objective. And again, you really want to, if possible, show that for outputs, outcomes, and organizational or business results. If the program is not set up that way to cover all three, then to be very clear about what you set out to do, and alternatively, and then how did you perform against what you set out to do. So just a few final points before opening this up for questions. You know, what I've tried to convey, and Philip as well, is that, you know, clear objectives, measured results, and again, an objective usually includes these four things. Who are you trying to reach? What about them are you, in essence, trying to change or affect? How much is good, and how much is an important metric to have? And also some indicator of when is this supposed to happen. So the how much and the by when are numbers, and so good objectives have numbers in them. It's important to recognize that it's in a perfect world, you indicate how did you reach the media, what the effect was within the media or outputs, how did that change the target audience or outcomes, and ultimately, was it relevant and how did it affect the client's business? And so the bringing in of the client to your awards program through a quote, through some form of video, so some engagement with the client is important to do, even if the award is submitted with the client, is a very important thing to do, as Philip pointed out. I guess finally, I just make 2 points. Make the writing easy to read. The people who are judges are volunteering their time. If you write your entry in a way that normal people cannot understand, it will, no matter how good it is, it will be very hard to win. Make sure you're not using jargon or terms that, let's call it, people who are not, you know, in your language or in your geography or in your business would not understand. I would consider in some ways, sometimes what we've done with our award entries, which we have won the most silver anvils in the PR industry. We've won a lot of awards in the Sabres. I think we're number 1 in the Sabres right now among all the big agencies. One of the things we do is we have people who had nothing to do with the program read the entry to just make sure they understand it. Because sometimes you're writing about your program, you're using terms that you think you understand or that you do understand, and you think others will too. But frankly, you've entered into sort of the jargon or lingo of that particular program or that particular type of analysis that others really won't understand. So a piece of advice is have someone else in your company read the entry before you submit it, and just make sure it's clear. And then finally, don't use special magic sauce. A great way to not win is to talk about some fancy algorithm or magic formula that was employed, but you can't disclose or show how that was done because it's your special proprietary way. I've seen an entry saying we really can't talk about how we did this measurement. I mean, after all, a BMW runs really well. Do you really need to know how the engine works? Well, in this case, you actually do need to know how the engine works, and it's important that there is clarity for the judges in terms of exactly what was done and how that special magic sauce was clear in terms of how the program was carried out and how the measurement was done. And it really relates back to the Barcelona Principles. Number 7 is all about transparency, so it should be transparent in your award entry in terms of how the work was done and how the measurement was undertaken. And with that, I will turn it back to, I believe, Barry to handle the questions.
Thank you, David. Some great advice there, and thanks to Philip and to David. Just a request, if you are in an open office, please keep your phone on mute. That's *1 until you want to ask a question. So I'm happy now to turn. It would help us if you introduce yourself by name and let us know where you're from as well. Do we have the first question?
Okay, I'll go. Sarah from Red Lorry, Yellow Lorry. Can everyone hear?
Go ahead, Sarah. Thank you.
So when you said that it's really good to get your client putting in a supporting quote as well, we will usually write it on behalf of our client, so it sounds like the client's writing it anyway. So then it would look a bit strange to then put in a client quote because technically it is all the client speaking anyway. So do you think it looks stronger when it sounds like it's not the client writing the award entry?
Oh, can I have a stab there? Sorry, Sarah. So when you actually write the entry, you're writing it, what, from the client's perspective, or?
Yeah, so we'll go through the form with the client and then understand the messaging for each question, and then we will draft it as though it's the client drafting it, so we do it on their behalf.
Yeah.
So what I mean is that if we then put a quote in from the client wouldn't really work. So do you think it looks better if we write it and then we pop a client's quote in as well? Does that make it look stronger?
Well, I certainly think that from the judge's perspective, if they can see the benefit to the end user and the end user endorsing that benefit and saying everything you are reading here is true, this is what the project delivered, that's a very good, effective, healthy shortcut to gaining the confidence of the judging panel.
So in that case, is it better as though it's the PR, if we're writing it as though the PR is writing the application form and then we pop in a client quote rather than it sounding like it's the MD or whatever writing it the whole way through, if you see
Yeah, no, I would say so. I mean, what the judges are looking for in the bulk of the report is fact, and as David, pointed out, answers to the specific challenges set out within the awards entry. What they're then also looking for is an endorsement of that. I don't really, for the bulk of the entry, they're looking for information and clarity, whether that's from the client writing or not. I'm not sure the judges would be too concerned by that. What they want is a T by the end user who actually commissioned the project in the first place.
Right, okay.
Thanks for that.
It's important to, whoever's writing it, what's important, I think, to convey, whether you use quotes or not to do that, is the partnership between, let's say, the measurement company, the public relations company, if you're engaged with an agency, and then the ultimate client. And so whether it comes from the three of you, the ultimate client, the agency, and the measuring company, or however you demonstrate that partnership, where the partnership is ultimately benefiting those who are paying for it, the ultimate client, I mean, that's what's really key here. Or you do it through three different voices and how you write.
Estoy haciendo otras cosas, no.
It's about...
Estamos en questions. Ya se ha pasado todo. No, así no. Precisamente quería...
Excuse me, hello. We have someone on the call. Thank you, David. Do we have a second question for our speakers? Such great advice. It probably stands up on its own without too many questions.
Actually, Barry, sorry, it's Philip here. Just say one thing, pick up something that David said, is that I think, historically in the wards, we collectively, probably could do more to involve our clients as partners in the entry. We, in Kantar, when we win, we get a second award made, and we go over and see the client, because, quite literally, we couldn't have done it without them.
That's a great idea, really.
It's always good to take the client with you and really do involve them, because it's only going to be good for your long-term relationship with your client.
Yeah. Let me ask a question of the people on the call. Do we have any Do we have a question from anyone who's not entered the AMEC Awards before? Is there one thing you're not quite certain about that talking to two senior people might reassure you about? No? Okay. It looks as if we've probably succeeded in imparting information. As we said at the beginning, the deck that the presenters have been using will be uploaded onto the AMEC.org website. We have a very full AMEC Awards tab at the top of the page. So I'll ask one more time if there are any questions. We're running short of time now. I'd like to, on all our behalf, thank Philip, thank David, and I'd like to, as David said, express on behalf of the directors of AMEC our thanks to you for making the time to be with us on this webinar today. So thank you and goodbye.